Yeah, I think you can start now.
Cool. All right, just like. Okay. I'm going to start.
Cool.
So I'm going to try to string along like a series of stories to explain the evolution of my thoughts over the past few years. And and like Dana started with the situation, I want to start with the big scary forces. So these are things that I think are pretty are working towards existential threats. So okay, so like the guy who's famously who's leading Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink is notorious for like thinking far out and like planning for these existential threats, or trying to mitigate and avoid these existential threats. But I think in a way, he's also going to create some, or create possibilities for them to happen sooner. I think of it like it's like the window of opportunity is open right now to go to Mars, but in so doing, it might close the opportunity faster than it would have closed before if you didn't try. But then if you didn't try, then you wouldn't make life multiplanetary, so then that doesn't solve that existential threat. So I think trying for those things is still a good thing, but I want to prepare for the window closing faster. So so some of the other big dangerous things that I see are capitalism and data. Capitalism using data for the wrong reasons, the wrong goal function, and then also a small minority of people having basically technocracy, like a small minority of people having these powers that can control the rest of people. So like in a book that described this idea of weapons of math destruction, like these small group of people that make these tools that control millions of people's lives, which are inherently biased because by the people who make them, and control the millions of people's lives. So I like to think of it like a wave. There's a lot of momentum in the system, and so at the top of the wave, there's like privilege and like power, and at the bottom is the majority of people. And the curling is, I guess I think the tip of this wave is Neuralink, and I worry that if Neuralink comes too soon, then the wave will crash, and there will be discontinuity in society. And if it comes too late, then AI will have grown faster than humans could ever catch up with, and outside of humans as a separate entity, which is also a discontinuity. Ah, man. Okay. I think I would work better if you guys ask me questions as I go, and then I can be
Okay,
like,
we can
oh,
do that.
I'll get that in a second, and then we'll go there.
Yeah, so like there's like discontinuity on each side of what you're describing.
What side? Yes. Can you elaborate a little more? Oh no, you went away. Okay, discontinuity on each side of what you're saying. yes, if you don't do something, it'll reach a discontinuity. If you do something, it'll reach a discontinuity. So you have to figure out how to get out of this double-ended discontinuity while still maintaining continuity. So I think well, Dana's gone still. Where'd Dana go? Dana knows all this stuff, so he's good. I think I try to get this idea across when I talk to people in conversations, but I'm usually more introverted than people I talk with. So like whenever I say something or however I'm feeling that day, I pick different parts of what I'm thinking. I like to describe this whole presentation. If I had gotten it crystallized as I would have liked, it would be like, I would call it an elephant or a mammoth because of a pun on mammoths, and mammoths are cool. But the saying back, like, not a saying, but like I've seen like religions described as all being the same thing. It's all just one big elephant, and then all of the different types of religions are just picking different parts of that elephant. Like like maybe Hindi is talking about the elephant's tail, and Christianity is talking about the leg. And so they're like, no, the elephant's rough and rigid. It's like, no, the elephant feels like the smooth, silky hair. So in order to describe this elephant, I have to basically do a presentation like this. And because whenever I try to talk about memes as this really cool, powerful thing, people are like, what? No, it's like Doge. Those are just memes. But so this is the introduction of what I mean by memes. And so I wanted to start that with a little intro about sharpness, and what sharpness means. I'm basically trying to derive our entire situation from like the beginning of the universe. And I think there's 3 different very stable foundations that our current situation is built on. The first being atoms. The atom means like this unbreakable component, the foundation of everything. And then the second would be DNA. And so I'm going to kind of try to derive DNA. If you could, yeah, any questions? Maybe I'm on a roll, maybe I'm not, but.
I mean,
okay.
Go for it.
Okay, basically, Selfish Gene is a book that I read a while back, and in it, this guy, Dawkins, describes genes as being, actually, I don't know if he describes them as being organisms, but rather just like these materials, these replicators, that if this thing continued to exist or somehow replicated, then it would take over the entire environment. And just because it would, because it's more sharp than anything else in the environment. And so then these random materials are just kind of floating around, and they kind of group up together. And if they group up randomly, but if they group up in a way that allows them to replicate better or more, then they stick around longer. I mean, they stick around. So this amplified turns into like complex organisms. And oh, I want to talk about, yeah. So complex organisms like this one. Hey, I think Donnie's here. Yeah, so then these complex organisms, basically, depending on how they replicate, each of these little blocks is a gene. Each of those genes is like an organism material. And if those organisms all replicate the same way or through the same means, then they're all working together symbiotically. But if if a virus comes in and replicates not through the same means, then it's seen as a parasitic organism. And then so then the third level of sharpness in the universe is these organisms that are capable of supporting the transfer of memes. Basically, this organism wakes up. Brains are the third thing. How's it going?
Can you explain this like sharpness in different words than this?
Yeah.
Like what is sharpness about?
Dana, can you describe sharpness?
I can attempt to describe sharpness.
Sweet.
Do you want me to? I mean, like, you
Yes.
could, whatever.
I mean, so actually, this will play. Sorry, one more thing. My understanding of sharpness is in your brain. So like, that's part that like a little piece of snippet of information is in the 20% of your brain that's in my brain. So it would be much better if you could explain it because it's more crystal in your brain.
Okay, I think I understand. Cool. Sharpness is just this idea that things that are able to reinforce their own presence in the world are the things that we see today, and things that do a less good job just reinforcing their own presence are not present. And basically, you can look at anything that's around today and look at the way it's become necessary in its environment, and that whatever is making it necessary or whatever is forcing it to recur is the thing that keeps it sharp, and so it has sharpness for that reason. That's kind of the language that we've been using anyway. And so genes are a really good example of that. They're maybe the best example of that we've ever seen in our world, because they do replicate. They're about replication, and those that do a good job reinforcing their presence, that is making more of them and occupying their environment better, are sharper than others. And so you end up with organisms that are made out of the sharpest genes. And that's similar. So Jaguar mentioned atoms. Those are probably the sharpest possible things, because no matter what you do to an atom, it's always going to be the same. And that's actually really unique in our universe. Like if you cast something with a mold and then cast that with another mold and cast that and make a mold over and over again, you're going to lose the original shape. But atoms are not like that. Infinite sharpness. They're always the same. So yeah, let's just do that. And anybody have questions?
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Dana. So in this picture, I want to remind that like the person or the thing that looks like a person is also a tree-like structure. It is this like, it is made up of pieces and pieces of its parents, and the parents are made up of pieces and pieces of their parents. And so it's like this gene conglomeration. And so then there's this, Maslow has this hierarchy of needs to sustain this collection of I call it a intelligence supporting collection of atoms. And in order to sustain that, you need to have these basic pyramidal structure things. But then the meme, I mean, it's all in the picture.
What is the relationship? Why is there an inverted pyramid? Like, how does that relate to the original Maslow's?
Yeah, so I'm thinking the inverted pyramid is kind of like the needs of the meme organism. So I don't think humans are this organism. I think they're these like, I guess in one context they would be viewed as an organism, but in this context they would be viewed as like a robot carrying other organisms. It's like an environment, just like the Earth is an ecosystem for, oh my God. So for a healthy mind, I think it would need connectivity to the internet. It would need computers and cell phones, like just like food, water, and warmth. In a sense, computers and cell phones are almost more like your arms, which is assumed in physiological. And then the next thing would be like your would be the privacy and security of those memes, those thoughts that pass through your mind. I don't want to be talking about this in context in the words with your and stuff, but what's that?
You said the security of the thoughts in your mind. Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not saying it correctly. I should be never saying you or your, or bringing it into this context of humans. Like these are collections of atoms, and yeah, just materials that happen to be replicated that give rise to another environment of other give rise to thoughts, memes, give rise to memes. Yeah, so another type of organism. So next slide. I'll just go. So the way these memes are communicated, or the way these memes transfer between other collection of atoms. Because in a sense, memes are not atoms. They are something else. They're supported by atoms. Just like genes are supported by atoms. All right. Give me a second. So basically what's happening right now is I think about things in this lucid state, and then I write a bunch of notes. And then I went through this process of, that might work better. I went through this process of writing those ideas down on a sticky note, on sticky notes, and then arranging those sticky notes into these categories, and then trying to make a story from them. And so then from the story heading lines, I try to make graphics that would help explain things. But what I'm finding is happening right now is I'm looking at these graphics and only remembering what I see in the graphic, and the graphic can't explain nearly as much as I thought about when I made the graphic. So I'm going to talk from my sticky notes. Just a second.
So he's going and getting his sticky notes at the moment. Is that something?
I think if I send my presentation to you, you can just like scroll through it and they like see the graphics as I talk about the things. Yeah.
You need some space to arrange notes.
Yeah. Take a 5-minute break.
Is that helpful?
Jonathan, do you have access to any slides here?
What, sorry?
Do you have access to any of the slides that we're looking at?
No. Can you
Okay.
post in the WeChat, Jaguar?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Did you say he's going to post it in WeChat?
Posting it now.
To
You want to see on the floor recording the camera instead of having the slides on the computer?
Maybe, yeah.
So turn off the slide sharing and then just film yourself.
Off the screen sharing.
Yeah.
And then like.
No, I have the recording. You don't have to record.
Okay. So weird mind puzzle. Okay. All right, this is happening.
So you turn off the screen sharing and just have your camera off.
Okay. Magic mirror.
That's okay.
Actually, I got a better idea. Dana. Where'd you go?
yes. Hi, what's up?
Just you and me.
Already?
But other people know. So, what have I been thinking about? I watched a TED
Okay.
Talk recently, and in the TED Talk, she was talking about the the dystopia that we were making, and she goes to talk about basically how Google and YouTube are suggesting content. They're recommending this content to. So, like, I mean, I can feel it when I go on YouTube, when I go on Facebook. It's like this force that pulls me into this, and I just keep clicking because I'm interested, and it's like related to what I'm interested in. So I do want to. It's like it's that strong, and so like these massive giants have built up these really powerful tools for general humans to get them to stay on the website longer, because then they can click on more ads, or just if you're on the website longer, they make more money. So a very
Right, which
capitalistic
is
reason.
creepy and
What?
like it ties into sharpness. Like that's the reason that they're so huge and that they've gotten so big, right? It's just like that's how they're able to make themselves bigger or reproduce themselves. Yeah, got you.
Yeah, exactly. And they're doing that off of they're doing that off of humans' minds. Like basically, they are in control of the fuzzy looking hair of the pictures in the slides I sent.
Yes, and there's like huge issues with that because like people who are in power are all of a particular type a lot of the time and don't have really good consideration for how they'll affect other people. And yeah, you already mentioned, I think, millions of people are affected by this and just a few people control it.
Yeah, so basically the people who are privileged enough to go to really good universities and learn about software engineering and machine learning, and then go get a job at these places. Like they come from a very specific background of the world. They have a very similar world model. That's why diversity is such a good thing. I mean, we need to have a world model that represents the world fully. But also, I don't think making tools that on that scale is a good idea. Anyway, even if we did have a perfect world model, I don't think even if we did have a collection of people who had a 99.9% world model in their mind, collective mind, to know how to make these tools, I still don't think it's a good thing for a smaller group of people to make tools for millions of people. I think the way to do it is to okay, so oh man.
I mean, I got you. I agree with that. I think that's extremely important.
But wouldn't it also be that those people are also victims of their own algorithms? In essence?
Also,
They use the tools they create.
yeah.
No one's gonna.
Right, yeah. I don't think oh, so the big picture is I don't think humans are winning. I think no one's winning. There's no like we're either heading towards AI being really smart like humans because humans are just robots, so AI can I don't want to talk about it as AI, just like these hyper simulated environments. There we go. So evolution, like genes were in a physical environment, evolution environment. And I don't feel like I'm talking to no one.
I mean, you're talking to me.
I know. So okay, so genes and behaviors. We got physical environments, like that's like the soup of the earth is the physical environment, and so like that's the physical slow evolution, and then this evolution finally gave rise to a collection of atoms that can simulate evolution at a faster pace. And then finally, we're getting to a point where these collections of atoms are able to simulate machines, are able to build machines that can simulate evolution at hyperspeeds. And so then it gets really weird when you start using these hyperspeed machines to simulate. This is not going well.
You all right?
Do you follow what I'm saying? Can I just like
So what I'm trying to figure out right now is if you're kind of trying to go for like a huge, I guess, all-encompassing view of like how you think, and then from there going to present something about like a project that you're trying to do, or if it's kind of just about that all-encompassing like view.
Nope, it's about that. The first thing you had. You just ask me questions, I can answer them.
I guess I'm curious about your project.
All right, so the project is, I suck at being able to communicate. And I didn't do all this on purpose, but PD. But I want to be able to increase the output of my brain, and I also want to. So I feel like I'm limited whenever I experience these lucid thinking moments. Like I reach this kind of asymptotic level that I can't go past. And there's a slide in there that has this, like, I think it's close to the end. It's the second to last slide, number 25. It's like a person thinking of what they could be, but they can't get there because of their environment or their tools that they have. But they can imagine a self. They can imagine they can imagine that they could be there. So I feel like I hit this asymptote, and what that feels like is like I have only like 85 more RMB on my WeChat. I need to go update that. I need to transfer money from my bank to get that, so that if I want to go eat dinner tonight, I can have money. But then it's like that takes maybe 30 minutes, and then from like thinking time, that takes maybe 3 hours in terms of like this maintaining this fragile lucid state. So I would rather that just be like, oh, I think that, and I want that to happen. Now there is WeChat. There's money in my WeChat. And I think Neuralink will get there. I mean, that's the end result. That's what will make humans not separate from AI. But I think but then I'm worried about Neuralink coming too soon. Like, Neuralink can't come into a world that is based on capitalism. Because if it does, then it would just, like, I mean, you get into this, it would just rip society. Like, it would just rip it apart. There's no, the wave would collapse. Because you would put a bunch of money into one location, and then it's like, what does that mean? Okay, cool. Someone has $5 gazillion.
Is that how donut economics really is? That's something that needs to be achieved before the world is ready for something as powerful as Neuralink.
Right. So exactly. The transition of the goal function, the first goal function of the entire universe right now is capitalism. And so far governments have supported that because they are, I mean, they're trying to protect their constituents and also are greedy, just like humans are. I think of governments as like macro humans. They have the same feelings, they have the same interactions with other governments as humans do with each other. Like they're friends or they fight. And so, yeah, governments have supported capitalism, but then they're also that guiding moral force. Like at some point, capitalism is like, hey, we should put certain chemical in baby food because it makes it cheaper, and then that baby food like kills people. Like that's just not good. So the governments ultimately have this humanistic view of the world, and they are more stable and able to enforce those kind of morals more so than any other entity. And so in a way, before I was thinking education should be separate from state, because if education is controlled by the state, then the state can just control the culture of the people and maintain and ensure its survival, ensure its existence. And so in a way, it's controlling the people. So it's like a dictatorship kind of. Even so, even if it's a democracy, it can still influence what people think of itself in a way that can sustain it. But then I realized recently that I think I would want states to still be the control entity of. Well, so currently I would want them to still be that, in control of education because I think they are the most stable and moral guiding force in our society. But they're not doing a good job right now because we're still using capitalism. And well, so the thing is now because of globalization, now that capitalism has gone outside of governments, outside of any one government's control, there's no way to kind of regulate it. And I don't think there's time to regulate it before it gets really too bad. And so donut economics, I think, is where like governments ideally should start regulating capitalism to fit within these boundaries. But the government's best tool to do that is to educate its people about it, and it's not happening. Education is still built to fuel this capitalistic giant, this capitalistic goal function. You go to school so that you can get a job, and now you can already see the stretch marks. Like you need to get a master's degree now to be able to get a good job. Like even if you have an undergraduate degree, you can't get a good job. And so, and then also with the there's like this other force coming in, like automation and these machine learning algorithms taking jobs instead of making a lot more. So this education's infrastructure for fueling capitalism is going to crumble, and that will be the thing that's how capitalism will topple the wave. And Neuralink will definitely for sure be that trigger, I think. Or at least things when we start getting into genetic manipulation or manipulating genes, like that's when speciation events would happen. Like the rich people would become a different race of humans, different species, and that's not a good discovery. So my passion project is basically how do we educate, or how do we shift the goal function from capitalism to donut economics? How do we constrain capitalism as a global entity? And I think we do that. Here we go. This is the hit. I like to describe Google and YouTube's magical machine learning powers as like this huge lightsaber. Like they can cut through anything. It's this massive power. And I want to take that power. I want to give it to everyone. And so like I want to give everyone a scalpel, a lightsaber scalpel, so that they can improve themselves as they wish, not as Google wishes, so that they make more money.
Is the scalpel for cutting the influence of like the already present dominion of the lightsaber holders, or is it like a constructive force for yourself?
No, it's not. I don't think of it as like a, not that kind of analogy, but that is cool. But like I don't know, if I want to see past this tile, what does the ground look like? Well, I can just like take out my magic power. Oh, sweet. I can cut this tile up. But I guess more concrete example of this tool. Going back to the WeChat thing, like, there we go. Infinite memory. So there's a slide with a bunch of scribbles. That's my last slide. When I was in March, or no, in May, when I was learning Mandarin, like that was my full time learning Mandarin, and then Jonathan introduced me to cryptocurrency, and for like that week, I didn't do any Mandarin, and I did a lot of cryptocurrency, and so you could see my attention. Like, so in that week, I could really feel that my Mandarin decreased because I was so my attention was on cryptocurrency, learning that. But then after I was like, okay, I need to go back to Mandarin. Like, I didn't lose more Mandarin than I learned cryptocurrency. Like I improved myself. I now know cryptocurrency, and now I can get back to Mandarin in like a week. But now I know a week's worth of cryptocurrency. And so I would like to be able to see this attention and see where it's gone. Like, because then you can be like, oh, I wasted 4 hours on YouTube, but not like wasted. I never ever say there's no wasted time. I think I'm finally getting that now. But you could see like it's in a direction that isn't the direction you want to be going in. And you can see it, and it's not saying, it's not telling you, it's not making a decision for you. It's just presenting you with that information that you could have had before if you had enough time to. There we go. If you had enough time to be able to reflect on that enough. So the thing about privileged people who have privilege, privileged people have time to be able to reflect on that. Like these like rich Silicon Valley, they make a company, and then they have like, time to do something like this. They can hire other people to help coach them on health, or take time to like meditate and grow their spirituality. Like they are realizing their full potential, their full Maslow's hierarchy, because they have the time to do so, because they have the privilege to do so. And so I think there's ways to use machine learning and all these like magic lightsaber scalpels to bootstrap people who don't have time to be privileged to be able to get that kind of time to reflect. You were smiling, Dana. I want to hear.
Yeah, I want to say something too.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I like your lightsaber scalpels.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to go back to that. Like, I read a book recently called The Effective Executive, which is about, like, I think this guy from the 1960s who writes about how, like, basically this kind of coaching to the privileged people, like, how can you manage your time better?
Mm-hmm.
And he writes one of the powerful things that he suggests is, like, you should keep a notebook with you every day. And then you should write down how you spend your time, because maybe you think that, oh, I spend, like, 20% of my day in meetings, but actually spend 60% of your day in meetings to be very unproductive. At a time, like your perception of what you do and what you actually do is so different.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to like, and you can only have that time. Like you only know that if you record it yourself manually.
Yeah.
And what you say is like, skip the notebook. Like no one has time for that if you're not very privileged. So,
but even so, a notebook is a tool.
Exactly.
A very simple one you can go do.
Exactly. But then it's about discipline.
Yeah.
That's something that I was talking about. Discipline to do something. Like discipline.
Yeah. But so then I guess, yeah, if you're saying people need to learn discipline to be able to do the thing, to be able to use the notebook tool to take care of themselves. That's the kind of thing. I mean, there's only so much you can squish how much you know and how much you can teach someone. Like you need to like just outsource the notebook to something that can just do it for you. Mm-hmm. And then you can be presented with this information. But then like how you present that is really important, and then like making sure your values don't bleed through that kind of presentation.
So what do you mean by literacy tools?
Literacy tools. So back in the day, education was about like teaching people how to read, because that's what was really necessary for being able to function in this society. I think in order to function in this society, you need to be able to learn how to read. But learning how to read is like learning how to not have the same password. Like people just aren't literate. There are so many people who aren't literate. I mean, I'm not literate, and I'm from MIT. So
what are you not literate?
I don't know how to hack. I would like to know how to hack and be able to hack myself and then see how vulnerable I am. I don't know that I should tell a story on the recording thing. but I realized how vulnerable I was as I was immigrating back into China. Like there's heat sensors, there's cameras, there's all of these data collectors around me, and assuming that they could look at my WeChat if they wanted to. If someone wanted to, if there was, it's not so much if someone, it's just like I guess the way I thought about it back then was if someone wanted to, they could look at me and know everything I was thinking, and then just like I'm an open book, they can just read. And so, yeah, I want to be an open book. I want to be a closed thing. I mean, it's like I don't just hop into bed with anyone. It takes a long process of getting to know someone to be able to like consent to that level of spirituality. I don't know. Feeling.
Would it be that they'd be able to process your data now? So it seems like that was your previous perspective, and then you have changed somewhat since then. Is it because like at this point they can take all that data and do things with it to understand you, or to like make a data point out of you, or do you still think that it's an open book sort of situation?
What I'm feeling now, it's not what I felt before was that someone, a person, could do that. But I'm not feeling so much a person now. It's like I got this feeling from the TED Talk. I'm definitely going to forward that out afterwards. I wanted to have a slide at the end. It's like a resources slide, but it's like created evolution of thought, stimuli. There's more of that. But to answer your question about how I feel about it now, it's like I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe it'll come up soon.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean by this infinite memory with relocation?
Yeah.
Like,
So
because now you outsource your, because there's so much of you that exists outside of you.
yes.
Exists inside. You outsource a lot to your phone, to your computer, to whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And when you do that today, with mainstream tools, you give someone else that.
Yeah.
Right. And then one thing is basically, yeah, like if you can store that for yourself and have tools for yourself, and yeah. So basically, instead of giving all that power, instead of giving yourself as an open book to other people, you need to store that. You need to have your own tools that empower you instead of helping empower others. It's like going to someone else to help them empower you, but instead you just go to yourself to empower you. You don't want to go to a third party as a service that you don't necessarily trust to help empower you.
I'm thinking that so two things: the separation of service and data, and then also homomorphic tools, homomorphic encryption, whatever next thing is.
Mm.
So I think homomorphic encryption is a method to be able to separate services and data, so that you don't need to have access to data, you don't need to know what data is that you're manipulating to be able to provide the service. So you can still use so you can still use things like Google without giving Google the data.
Mm.
But the reason Google is Google, the reason why it's so good is because they've had your data. So, yeah, if you're trying to get off of these systems, then you're gonna have these really shitty tools because there's been no money to make them good.
Not really good.
So this lightsaber you have would still be as powerful, right, in their hands. So that wouldn't actually help with that, but they would at least be able. They wouldn't be able to invade your privacy, and they wouldn't be able to get specifically like stuff about you. They'd still be able to wield and control information on a broader scale, right? Like in terms of what content they choose to create to show you, even if they don't know exactly who to show it to.
I gotta ask you what you mean by they.
Google and Facebook and other people who have control of non-transparent algorithms.
All right, I need to jump up a level. So
Sounds good.
Google, all these things are gotta be careful about like they and like who you're talking about as enemies and like or how you're feeling about them. It's like there's no enemies here. It's just Google and Facebook are these powers, and there's like in the world today there's just so much data. Not none 7.5 billion humans couldn't sit through all the data and make sense of it all. So like, what's happening is Google, these content providers, these recommendation engines, are the facilitators of the world. They're picking and choosing which content to give to people to consume. And so that's kind of like the same feeling as like what we talk about, how we use our language is what we're going to do in the future. Like what you're using with like systems thinking. You talk about it. If your society talks a lot about growth and growth and growth, you're not going to be thinking about rejuvenation or cycling. Your question was
On a different
yeah, on a different level, but there we go. So homomorphic is one thing. I think homomorphic description could be a good tool to separate Google's service from their data, and that would be a good thing. I don't know if Google would embrace that or if it would fight it like oil companies fight climate change, which is interesting. I would assume that Google's power is just like any other human, and they are going to want to maintain that. But I also think they're good people, so I don't know. But with your scalpel, everything you do, all of your data is meaningful to you. You know what to do with it. No one else really knows what to do with it, but you know because it is you. So when I was typing up these notes the other day, I recorded a screen capture of me typing it. Because before I did that, I was typing, and then I went to another paragraph before I finished typing it. I typed another idea, and I forgot what the original one was. Because I had branched, and I forgot what the branch was. And then I hate doing that. I never remember, because whenever I go into the mode of trying to remember, I can't. Just like, I think similar to whenever I'm trying to give a presentation, I just freeze up. So I'm recording my typing, and I discovered that while recording the typing, it also records sounds. So is another environment for memes, and it was just even more easy to remember what I was writing as I was watching me type out exactly and pausing and writing or and then like it was just so fluid. It just happened. It just came to me. It unlocked this door. I thought about something else. Like where these single core processors, not multi-core processors.
Yep.
So basically trying to make tools that can help this single core processor be do what it does best and outsource everything else.
It seems like it's related to literacy too, in that like right now we are maybe literate in being able to write things. We're not even password literate, like you said, algorithm literate to figure out how to take a lot of the data that we have available to us and twist it into a shape that's going to be useful to us. We acquire it and the way that we sift through it and try to use it. Right. So it seems like part of your project might be about like granting people literacy in algorithms and data processing.
Is what you're saying meaning that everyone would need to learn how to code?
Nope. Definitely not.
So it's like learning logic kind of algorithm logic.
Yeah. But you still need to figure out how to manipulate some form of the data, even if that isn't, typing out it as a name of like a NumPy array or whatever. Like you still have to feel, be able to interact with it somehow. And so it seems like your tools that you have in mind to create would like give people that power is like kind of a nebulous understanding that I have.
Can you hear me, Dana? So I listened to. Can you hear me, Dana?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Yeah, kind of. But it'd be great if you could get in front of the computer because it seems like the mic is pretty directional.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was listening to this podcast. Sorry for posting it. To this podcast today where there's this guy who has a company in Sweden called Sana that does this kind of learning algorithms, like personalized learning algorithms, and they talked about the fear of these algorithms, and he was like, well, for my algorithm, it's not really, or the worst thing that can happen is like you're recommending something wrong. But then, what's the point? And then they talk about this, like how like, and this podcaster doesn't know much about technology. It's like, well, so how will we talk about machine learning and AI in 5 years? And this guy's like, we won't really talk about it. Like when electricity was something new, they talked about like, oh, how this would kind of change the way we do things. But it's actually something just like in the background. We don't really talk about electricity as like a thing. It's just something that we use on a daily basis. And that's like how naturally machine learning and AI is going to become for us as well in a few years. Where so basically his thing was like, yeah, I mean, like you had said as well, that the best thing is for us, like it's not going to be this like, oh, the AI is going to take over and be its own entity. It's like we're going to become better with new technology, because we can focus on the things that makes us humans, and we can focus on our creativity, our empathy, and these things, and then we can outsource these other things that helps us to other places. We can free up that space, like free up those abilities that makes us what we are.
Sure.
I'm not sure if this is very philosophical or not. And this is all very
okay, but actually, so like working on extending that, so like we're able to just forget about electricity because we have one interface that we ever use to interact with it, which is that we can plug into a wall. We can take a device which you know to be an electrical sort of device, need to do with it, plug it in. And there's other uses for electricity that are around us but aren't available to us to like understand as interfaces, but like, you know, it's all like available to us at a touch, right? So like we have certain interfaces that we're expecting. So it's like either you have control of a module that you want to enable with a thing, with the electricity thing that's out there, or you have a known interface for how to use electricity in your world. So I'm wondering, like, is what you're talking about both of those, or is it one of them more than the other, or what?
Talking to me or talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't expect it is not possible for everyone to be able to know how to make a Tesla coil, but everyone can turn on a light switch. No problem. So yeah, making tools like light switches for machine learning. Sorry.
I mean,
Keep talking.
well, right, it seems like what you're saying is like, you don't expect anyone to understand what like 120 volt, like 60 hertz power is, right?
Hey. What'd you say? You want expecting that people would know that? You don't need to know.
You aren't expecting people to know how to use like 120 volt 60 hertz power. Like they don't know what that is, but they can still use electricity. And I guess we're also saying like you shouldn't be able to build a Tesla coil necessarily, but you can still turn a light switch on and off. And so like, okay, sorry, go again.
So I guess these tools are what capitalism are making. Like capitalism is really good at making these tools, but capitalism can't be the driving force to make these tools anymore because it will destroy everything. That's where this feeling of strange loops, and I think that this strange loop is why not why, but it always comes back to this like.
Sorry, okay, I have to go 1 sec, but I'll be right back. My bad.
All right, no worries. So.
Yeah, strange. Slightly about strange loops, right?
No, it was a heavy bootstrapping strange loops. I think I can keep going.
Yeah, elaborate about that, because I think that was one of the parts of the slide I didn't really get. I mean,
yeah, when I was laughing before this presentation, I was thinking I could make my presentation so spotty, full of holes that people have to ask questions to understand, and like really force me to be able to keep going. So maybe making a presentation that makes no sense is a really good thing. It shouldn't make sense without me.
Yeah, right.
So strange loops. So like capitalism needs to make tools to teach people how to restrain it. Otherwise, it will destroy itself. But in so doing, well, making tools to restrain yourself just seems kind of weird.
Like a heroin addict trying to figure out some routine to take
Yeah.
less heroin while he still really wants to take heroin.
But also, that doesn't feel like a strange loop. Right? So I don't know if I'm explaining.
Well, the reason it doesn't
Yeah,
feel like a
that's-
strange loop is that heroin doesn't help you think about that.
Right.
Like, imagine if you were like, you can't focus, and so you take Adderall, and you use the Adderall to try to like figure out ways so that you don't need Adderall anymore. Like, that's more like it to me.
Yeah.
Wait, so then what is the analogy there then? But no, but the capitalism is really good at making these tools. There we go.
Not the ones that restrain it, just tools.
No, the ones that would. Well, it's really good at making tools, but it needs to make the tools that restrain it.
It's good to make tools for efficiency, but the efficiency will destroy itself.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, didn't you?
So you need to have tools that restrain it to another sort of an efficiency that is not unsustainable.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep getting more and more efficient or doing more and more things and growing, the model needs to grow. Right? That's the premise of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It needs to grow. And I mean, if you continue to grow, you definitely push the boundaries of the donut economics, right?
Yeah.
So, and why does it create these tools that help people get more effective? Because that helps the capitalism to grow more. Because that makes people, which makes them help capitalism grow. Because that's the reward you get from the capitalism.
Yeah.
So then it's like capitalism needs to make tools that makes it grow in a different direction or make it not grow.
No, there we go. It makes boundaries for itself that are way more sharp than the governments can ever be. The government's trying to do a good job at making donut economics. That is the role of government, and that's what the government tries to do. But basically, capitalism needs to have encoded in itself these boundaries. Capitalism should be the thing that wants it to not grow past these things, not some moral government body. And so I think that's it. So I think the way that you get that kind of sharpness into the capitalism model is by making all of the constituents of capitalism have the power.
What's the consistency?
People, every person needs certain things, and they. I think violence kind of arises from concentrations of power. It's wanting to maintain power. And so if there is no concentration of power, then there would be no violence. But I mean, that's a kind of generalization, but I think it would still be a pretty good, happy, lovable world. But along the lines that, like, if you educate women, then their children will be more smarter. Not more smarter, but then it will elevate their family, like, because they pass that knowledge on to their children. And their children will be getting better. But if you educate men, it's not necessarily the same. So, like, that kind of bootstrap.
Right, so that's the way that you would bootstrap it or like have it kind of fuel itself. But encoding the limits in it, that's like, I think the really, really interesting and cool part of this. And I think you don't actually have to give people the power to understand that and use it in order to encode that. I mean, so like ants will reproduce like exponentially. And if you didn't ever have a way to turn that off, they would just keep using resources and eventually like make so many ants that they just like became unbalanced and killed the colony. But you don't actually have ants like understand about when those limits should be enforced. You just have it encoded in the ants somehow that they should keep reproducing until a certain boundary is reached, until a certain balance of workers is there, and then they should stop. Who the hell knows how that happens? But if we can figure out a way to encode that in our ants, then like that would be an amazing way to kind of keep capitalism being the efficient, amazing thing that it's been without letting it be the destroying the earth thing that it's going to be.
But doesn't this connect to your first slide? Can you go to it? Doesn't this kind of, I mean,
My first slide is.
I think he means mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so you can just see them as you can see. No, but I mean, what was your, no, but the first slide you had was like the issue you see is like we cannot be sustainable as a species, we humans right now. And what we need in order to be sustainable is that we all need to share our knowledge and skills and perspectives with each other on a rate never seen before. Because first of all, like sharing perspectives is about empathy, to like understand other people's situation and see what they would need and like how your actions directly affect them. That's a sharing of perspectives, and then you have skills and knowledge as aspects of how you can improve your surrounding environment. And
so I agree with those general principles. Or,
I mean,
yeah,
what?
What you're saying?
No, I'm saying like, sorry. What was your question?
Oh, I agree with everything you said. Like general principles, these are like amazing things and important. But actually, with the first slide, there's like some really concrete things that I think are necessary. It's just like we've researched what it takes to make the world sustainable, and a lot of people have insight on that and like some hard science. And there's no way for like 99% of the world to understand any of that knowledge.
Right.
But you can't tell people how to understand the knowledge. You have to bring them up to that level through the process that you're just describing. It's just, I don't think what you're saying is like the whole thing. I think that's like the set of tools and like the processes we need to enable in order for that to happen. But like the most critical thing in the entire world seems to be to help a lot of people understand what needs to be done to keep the earth sustainable. At least that's what my first slide was about. I'm not actually like dying on that rock, but like, you know, I think that's
yeah. No, but my idea was that, yeah, I mean, if people could understand more about this knowledge, because like when I teach in Sweden, like a lot of the like primary school students are like super aware about these things, and because the education system there actually teaches this quite early on, like they become quite aware about it. But then the problem is that they see the knowledge that they get, they see contradictions to in everyday life. Like they see their parents taking the car, like instead of walking 10 minutes to the soccer practice, and like these behaviors. So it's like a dissonance between what they hear and what they see, or like what they learn and what they experience. And I mean, it comes down to things like, sure, people need to. I'm gonna lose track here. But this antidote, like to create an antidote for capitalism going too far in the wrong direction. I mean, what is that antidote? What is that kind of balancing feedback loop or mechanism that can keep that in track? I see the only thing is like you need to include what is called externalities. It needs to be included in what you account for. I mean, that's like a very pragmatic way of dealing with capitalism. But then it's also the how can you price a forest? I mean, that's kind of like a whole other issue. So yeah. I'm not sure if I see the connection between. Can I keep talking about it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I see the connection between the literacy tools and like how to keep capitalism in check. What is that connection?
I was just thinking about saying something like.
That's something different in mind. You can say that.
I don't feel completely understood, so yeah, I do want to keep talking. But I think maybe there's different types of tools. Hey, okay. There's different types of tools. Some of the tools are very passive and they just present to you information about yourself that you could have gotten if you had the time and privilege to do so. The other tools are suggestive recommendation providers that manipulate your behavior in ways that you want it to because it knows your goal. In a way, you are a recommendation provider. You are a tool for my brain. People can talk to you and be like, hey, I read this thing. I think you should read it because I think it would help you understand the thing more. And I trust you because I know that you're likely not saying that because you're going to get some kind of gain out of it. But I can't trust any recommended content from a data giant because I know that that recommended content is just because it will make them have more money.
Yeah, solid. Yep.
And so this facilitator, outsourcing the facilitator that you talked about, I think that's like that trustworthiness has to overcome overcome. You have to be able to maintain or establish this trustworthiness that your recommended content is for your own benefit. For the altruistic, I think I have a slide on this, but it's like it is for the replication of your genes, not for mine.
Whoever does it.
Yeah. It's for your goal, not mine. Yeah. But we're not separate entities. We're not separate things. We're all connected. We're all the same thing. We're all the same organism. That's what I'm trying to get at with these like massive pictures of just squiggly lines with other mini humans inside your brain. Because your brain is like 20% someone else, like 20% my dad maybe, and like 5% Dana, and then 3% China. Right? So you can't ultimately have your own selfish goal. Your goal is connected to other people's goals. This is, I think, what the snippet I read from your book about that. Hey, did you get that book yet? Maybe not. Damn it.
Wait. Does it look like this?
Yes.
Yes. That's time travel right there.
Just waiting out. Yeah. Oh, come now.
The Jaguar's presentation turned into Christmas.
Very cool. Oh yes, I don't know the name. What did I write? What did I write? I can't see it. Oh yeah, Castle Glen. There we go. Yep.
Am I opening this right now? Is this going to derail us?
Yeah. No, it's not. It's
No.
It's very much relevant. I'm coding things from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like full circle on the thing I shared in Slack, where like kids on YouTube learn to watch people open presents on video, and it like keeps them hooked, and they recommend more YouTube videos of people opening presents. And now this is one of them. And we very much like them.
Open the box.
Wait, actually though, videos of people opening presents must be so satisfying.
It's very satisfying to watch it right now, Dave.
Oh my god, what is this package? I don't know if I cut myself. There we go. You'd think I'd be good at this by now.
Yeah. Yes.
Nice. Huh. Uh-huh. Okay.
I don't know mine yet. But it's a thing. Yeah. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like you just did what you're saying.
Yeah, because I the last week, 20% of my brain's memes I've been thinking about has been part of this book. And then I let Jaguar open. I said open a random. What did it say?
And for all those who would learn from her. For Dana. Wow, yeah. Dana.
What?
Dana.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Literally inscribed with for Dana.
Yeah.
It says literally for Dana in it.
But is this what you do with the? It's like we share common goals because we share common ideas, or you can call it memes as well. That this is, for example, a transfer from me to you because you read a certain passage. It makes maybe buy it for him. So we will all share a bit of a similar goal or a meme.
No, like literally. So like the picture, like the little black guy. I had those books. Yeah, distilled knowledge. Right. But like that literally is your brain, his brain. Like what Naval was saying is like this reading of ideas as you read other people's thoughts. Yeah, distilled books. Yeah.
So we're not separate because we all share these kind of different brain spaces. Yes. I have a certain setup, while you have a certain setup, and it might overlap in certain places.
Yeah. So the big question is like, how do we guide groups of people? Because the danger with YouTube was that it in its goal to make more money for Google, it polarized the United States. Like it's whatever you click on, it'll give you slightly more extreme, and it'll give you slightly more extreme, and then you like get into this camp of. I mean, it literally just changed your mind. It sculpted your mind into this new space. I was like, why is it doing that? Because money. Like that's horrible. It should, if there's any, if that power is on this planet, there's a power capable of doing that. It should be sculpting everyone's minds to a way of thinking about making everyone be able to keep living. Being able to make
Right, but it shouldn't be in the hands of any particular person. It shouldn't be a concentration of power.
What's that?
But it shouldn't be in the hands of any particular person. It should be a concentration of power. Because then, I don't know, you get like Soviet Russia. And they figure out a way to present people with just the things that they need to like shape their minds into a place where they now want to have a revolution, which isn't what they think.
Yeah. Wait,
So like,
what
I'm
was I saying?
very scared by that kind of thing, but I'm kind of more scared about it like being utterly directionless, right?
Wait, okay, so wait, what did you say it should be a power? It should be concentration of power, and I said yes to that. Is that what I said yes to?
Like it shouldn't be a concentration of power.
Right.
There shouldn't be someone who's deciding, okay, well, let's figure out it instead of accidentally polarizing into two arbitrary groups of people who think really like similarly to each other using these recommendation engines. Let's figure out instead how to get everyone moving toward like changing their minds to do something productive. But the very process of thinking of what that should be, what that group should be, and what should define it is like it's an extremely powerful thing to be able to do, and it's much more likely to be abused than anything we've even talked about so far. Am I talking in code? What's going on?
No, yes.
No, it's a deep point. Needs some reflection. Take it easy, brother.
I don't know. I don't know how to respond yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we're backing up one layer. My fear of coming to China has been amazing because I get to like feel this other culture and completely understand my wrong understanding of the culture. And so now, someone asked me the other day, like, how did your perception change after you came here? And I say, before I came to China, I was afraid of China. After coming to China, I'm now afraid of China and afraid of the United States.
Good.
So, but I actually think I am less afraid of China than I am of Google. Slightly less afraid of China than I am of the United States, because I feel like the United States is more it just happening, and China is more central control. It at least has some control over this thing,
Mhm.
whereas like Google is not controlled. It is just a handful of very elitist people making very, very strong tools. And the government is also not very what it's meant to be.
Yeah,
And
sure.
it's a massive, massive power of violence. Capable of doing massive violence. Just like U.S. military, all that knowledge is funded is going toward weaponized things in the military.
But think about the alternative then, because you talk about these passive algorithms of like, maybe they just suck up lots of your data and then use it to provide you with recommendations and curation of content, right?
No, that's different. We need to differentiate these tools. If it's providing recommendations, then it's not passive. It is actively shaping the mind.
But how can you say like, but how would you refer to one? Because usually now, like the tools that we use that are really powerful by these companies, we don't have any input. Like I can go to Google and I can see like, okay, they have these keywords on me, and this, and they have this like history of what I've been doing, which they track me. But imagine using a tool that asks you for like, oh, like you visited these things these days. It seems like you're interested in this topic now. Do you want me to add this to one of your goals? Like, but imagine how many if it would ask you for permission every time you would learn something about you. Like, imagine how many queries you would get of like, I just learned this about you. Is it okay if I use this? I learned this about you. Is it okay if I use this?
Yeah.
I mean, is that desirable? Or?
That's I don't know how to say it. It's not. It's missing the point. Kind of.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to bring it in this, starting from a very basic. We are all genes, and we are not things. We are just these environments for genes, and we are environments for memes, and like we just are these passive robots. Because like because I don't want to talk about this as being me and you and this other thing, like as being separate from me or you or this other thing. They're not different. And so, but if we do talk about it like that, then it's like if I think of the tool myself, like I came up with this idea to screen capture and then remember what I forgot. That was me, and I feel it was me because I thought of it. But if someone recommended it to me, like if you recommended that to me, or as I'm now talking to you about this, I'm recommending that to you, and you use it, you wouldn't think that it's like annoying or malicious.
That comes to trust, like you said
Yeah.
earlier, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't want to have it asking, can I use this? Can I use this? Because you want to be able to trust it to use it and use the right stuff.
Right. It's as I mean this more non-passive tool or recommender would be as like a mentor that knows you perfectly because it is your data, it is you. And then it would just be like, hey, next time use this idea. Try doing screen capture. Maybe that'll help you learn this idea.
Yeah.
So it's not like asking you, it's just like providing you a very, very valuable, very, very what works so well recommendation or what you want.
But I want to get down to this level of thinking of like, so you use atoms and memes as a basic fundamental blocks.
Yeah.
Because atoms is like the physical world of two atoms where not really separate besides that. Because that's like the sharpest thing and I'm trying to express that.
Well, all life-based things are built up.
Yeah, right. And then memes is more like memes are a physical thing. I mean, you might have a physical manifestation in neurons, but like memes is something that also brings us together because it's something that we share. Well, not no we, but it's something that
Yeah, sorry.
it's something that organisms made out of atoms share on a level of ideas rather than a level of physical. It's a level of communication. It's, well,
Yes.
atoms is a level of physical.
Yes. There's three things I want to say. I messed up by saying something about atoms are the things that support life. I meant to say atoms are the things that support intelligence, support intelligence. And then memes are something about the transformation of memes. Oh, there we go. Decisions are the transformation of memes in the data atoms.
Memes are the
Decisions
decisions are the memes.
is the transfer of memes. Is the
Wait.
something in here. Not memes. Man, writing is so easy when I'm used to it. But memes, manipulating atoms.
And why is it more useful to think in this level than you mean?
Because of the cool thing about symbiosis and parasitism.
What is that?
That's what I was trying to get at with if all of these genes are replicating through the same process, then they're all in symbiotic relationship with each other. They're all trustworthy. But if a virus comes back along and it attacks one of these cells, not genes, attacks a cell, replicates through first in the cell, then it's replicating by different means than meiosis. So it is seen as a parasite to the host, to the organism. And so that's analogous to trust in the immune world. With a mentor recommending content to a different biological body. To different atoms. Because we're separated, we're different atoms, but we're not different memes.
Hmm.
But memes have the capability of manipulating atoms in the form of decisions. And
But only in a weird way.
also,
Well, I mean, like this whole deal where memes don't exist at all, right, anymore. So like postulating that atoms might exist, which is like, whatever. So we'll go with that. Memes are built like very significantly higher on that stack than atoms, but are nevertheless implemented in atoms. But then if you say that memes have the ability to change atoms, that isn't actually like strictly true, but it
maybe
is.
it's a question of atoms, like not atoms themselves, but configurations of atoms.
I guess what I'm saying is this is a strange loop. This is a classic strange loop. It's like this is atoms, and the thing is built out of atoms, and then nevertheless it looks like it can act as an autonomous thing that shapes the motion of atoms. Like if you're looking up here, it looks like atoms are moving as a result of memes. If you're looking down here, it looks like memes are like built out of atoms.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all though. I mean, like the whole point is that you have to pick a perspective and look. You can't just do the whole thing at once.
Yes, and so I think that gets into free will and determinism.
Gets into what? Sorry.
Maybe I should bring this.
So if you want to conclude your hosted talk, how do you want to conclude it?
Strange loops. um, so basically, I gave my presentation to Downey yesterday in that 4.5 hours. It was beautiful because our minds were primed, ready for that talk at that moment. And the conclusion we came up with are the things. So at the beginning was getting to know each other, telling our stories, which was kind of cool. Like you get to know each other by going over your life, what your environment was when you were being raised, to the last few years, and then to the last year. What have you been doing this last year? And then it narrows and narrows and narrows to what I read or what I talked about or what I watched that TED talk yesterday, like the day before this week, and then the roller coaster project, getting in closer and closer. Then talking about like what we're currently thinking about now, and this like going over your evolution of thought and to what it has reached to now. And then at that point, we're like so comfortable with each other that we can start working together to make develop new thoughts, or to develop on those foundations of thoughts. And so the things we developed together were the idea that the internet is always right. Like if you look up, like his example was, if you look up, if your mom says the eggs are bad for you, but then Google says they're good for you, then you would trust Google. But then also 3 levels of mentorship. The first one being, I'm not going to, like if I'm speaking down. Because if I'm an engineer in a cyber school, and I say, hey kids, I want to go build a table, and that would be like not okay. The kids have to come to you and say, I want to build a table. And you're like, oh, it's sweet, let's go build a table. So like the thing with the roller coaster would be totally not okay. And so I was thinking like in ISP is kind of like cyber in that sense that they want to and so then that kind of that's going to come out in the roller coaster. Well, that's how it's affected. But then the second level of mentorship is...
You just said that thing that you just said, which is a negative consequence, you're going to see that in the roller coaster situation. Is that what you meant?
What?
You just said that there's a negative consequence to level 1 mentorship, or like then that will probably come out in the roller coaster thing, right? You just, it was an offhanded comment, but I'm just like, so you basically just did that. Let's build a table. Let's build a roller coaster.
Yes.
And they were like, and you're like, no, let's do it. They're like, okay. So
the thing was, the school was like, we're uncomfortable with this idea because we want the kids to develop their own. Yeah.
Right.
But then we come to the kids and we say, but then the school also knows that like, if you say this to the kids, then they will obviously go with the roller coaster because it's really cool. So then it's like they're kind of questioning our facilitation technique because they themselves would not propose their own ideas when they're brainstorming a project.
In other words, they're really good at this, but also we need to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then level 2, which Johnny and I both agree to be the best level of mentorship, is like respecting the learner, but also sharing your value system and your passions with them together. Like you said, like if you're reading a book, then the mentor would come and be like, hey, I'm sorry to bother you or to disturb your reading, but I would want to recommend like another book, like that I think you could find really valuable. The third one is what Google is doing now, what YouTube is like, just constantly recommending things without any respect for the learner. without any respect for it.
Okay. Yep. I'm with you. Here we go.
Walking outside, right out here, you hear all of these noises, and you hear like these Chinese. We have coffee. We have baozi. We have drinks. Like it's just polluting noise into the environment to hopefully get you to buy something because doing that. Because if no one's doing that and you do that, then you're likely to get more people. Like that's the capitalism. That's what's that?
Tragedy of the commons.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's evolution right there. It's like that's capitalism. That's the sharpness of a gene that replicates. It will become everything.
That's the reinforcement why it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. So those 3 levels of mentorship, and so then the tools that you make need to respect the learner. And then there's 3 things. Oh. Then like designing education systems. You are designing. Oh man, there's still more to this conversation. What is education? I mean, when a baby is born, it is a 10,000-year-old baby. It is a baby that was born in 10,000 BC. It's the same baby. But humans have, the human colossus is much more intelligent now. And so you're trying to balance how to install firmware on this baby so that they can be functional intake, creativity and passion and like confidence and self-control, that they can go their own way after they've been literate, become literate in today. But like that's what the Windows operating system picture in the slides was. It's like,
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
it's like, you wanted to restart your computer? Nope, you have to wait an hour because I am telling you that you have to update now. It's like, I can't do anything. I have no control. It is just updating firmware. And so, then in a sense, that's what education system is doing now for capitalism. And then
what's the name of that test?
When you're 20.
What's the name of that test all Chinese folks have to take?
The Gaokao.
Galcom, yeah,
Yep.
That is Windows is restarting now. Like,
Yep.
But I like this you said. You said become literate in today.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing to say.
Like, yeah, just plain words.
No. I like that. Because it's like, yeah, like education. Just, yeah, what education is today is become fluent in yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like we've all been educated. Huh?
we need to build in the limitations that will control capitalism into the motivations that fuel capitalism. That idea is something I've never considered in my life and is unbelievably powerful. Like, you won today, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
Can you write that in the chat? Can you word that exactly? How did you word that?
We can just record the case capture because we already did.
What?
We just replay it because we already recorded because we're recording.
No, but I want it now. I want it now. What was it?
hold
The
on,
capitalist.
I'm
Let's
writing
send this again.
so that I don't mess it up.
Yeah. I think it's so funny. Yeah, we, like, all of us, we have never lived in the industrial age. Did you say that?
I mean, yeah, we didn't see it developing.
I mean, when we were born in like the 90s, then like the industrial age had been replaced by the information age, not digital information, but like paper. Like it was still an information economy. in the 90s, but maybe not, but becoming digital. And now it's like the connected age that is more digital. Do you understand this framing of time? So I see that's like there's 3 ages. There was the industrial age that went into the information age of like typewriters and the telephones and like faxes and simple home PCs, so that was like a gap in the information age, and then came the connected age, which we have now with
That being decentralized and distributed.
no, I mean
Distributed.
oh what happened?
Oh no, I ran out of shit.
Oh
Oh, you have to come here, right? You respond?
yeah, but it's not recording the mic. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, it's still here then. It just went to sleep. Yay.
I mean, wait, what? What?